Welcome to another special episode of Grounded Spirits Podcast, where we're talking about Taylor Swift's The Tortured Poets Department, the anthology, and we're going to go through every single song in this series, but in this particular episode, we're looking at track 7, Fresh Out the Slammer, track 8, Florida, and track 9, Guilty as Sin. If you want me to break these down and look at all of the genius that is poured into these songs, stay tuned. Starting with track 7, Fresh Out the Slammer. Now, pretty baby, I'm running back home to you. Fresh out the slammer, I know who my first call will be too. And so it seems like she's talking about a guy. Like, she just got out of this relationship that felt like a jail cell, felt like a prison. And now that she's fresh out of there, she's ready to go on to somebody new, or so we think. In this song, she's talking about losing herself. We'll go through the actual lyrics that support this claim, but she feels like she lost herself in this relationship because she was trying so hard to mold herself into the relationship to stay with him, but she had to grow. And so now that she's out, the first call will be to herself, will be to her true self, to her soul. Very similar to But Daddy, I Love Him, where we think it's about a guy, but it's actually about herself. This whole album is a cathartic process for Taylor Swift, where she's just pouring her heart out on the page and not caring if people relate to it or not caring if critics like it or not, but just being her true, most authentic self. And talking about relationships, I have been journaling since I was 12. And funny enough, I had my first relationship when I was 12. And it wasn't a relationship. Like, we never kissed. We maybe held hands. It was like very, very G-rated. Like, no, I wouldn't even give it a PG. It was very G. But then when it ended, I wrote in my journal, wow, it feels so free to not be in the relationship anymore. I feel like a free woman, I wrote. And it's so interesting how relationships, we call them bonds, right? We have a bond with somebody, and so we get into a relationship. But bonds could also mean like handcuffs. It could also mean like a ball and chain. Some people talk about marriage that way. That you feel like you're in prison because you're no longer free. You can no longer act up on your own accord. You have somebody else that dictates or influences your every move. And so when it's over, you're your own person again. And so that's who's the first call will be to. It'll be to her true self, the one that she had to hide away because of the relationship. Another summer, taking cover, rolling thunder, he don't understand me. Splintered back in winter, silent dinners, bitter, he was with her in dreams. It's so hard not to sing it, but this whole part's talking about being caged, right? So another summer of taking cover. So we talked about in track 3 about my boy only breaks his favorite toys. So like, she had to take cover. She was always on edge. Splintered back in winter, like silent dinners bitter. Like I feel like the way that she portrays Tolerate It in on the Eras tour, where it's like this long table, the two people on the opposite side, and she just wants him to feel. She just wants his emotions, but he is so bolted in that safe. And she talks about it in a different song that she's done the safe. Oh, it was in winter. What's it called? So Long London. She says, let me pull it up. She says something along the lines of, here it is. I stopped trying to make him laugh, stopped trying to drill the safe. So she's trying to take cover. We learned about it also in the second track of the Tortured Poets Department, that she she knows that he puts these things in the path and she has to take cover. She's always on edge. So it's another summer, and this time it's used negatively. Whereas in Lover, she talks about summer as being this like really warm glow, like loving it, loving all of the summers together. And now it's a summer taking cover. Rolling thunder, he don't understand me. He don't like, she is so, how do I say it? She's trying to mold herself to him, but he's not doing the same. It's very one-sided. And the only way that a relationship can work is if you are both willing to grow. If one person wants to stop growing, which, oh my gosh. So Joe, he has a Taurus moon. Taurus is the sign for stability and for not wanting change. They're very stubborn and they don't want to grow. Something drastic has to happen for them to grow. And growth, they're growing pains, you know? When you grow, it hurts. It could be physical, it could be emotional, but it hurts. And so I'm going to say God wants all of us to grow, right? But God wanted Joe to grow, and Joe didn't want to grow because it would hurt to be out in the spotlight with Taylor. So the breakup is what needed to happen. I think that's what she's saying here. Splintered back in winter, silent dinner. So it could be that there was like a tiff that happened in winter, or it could actually be like when they broke up. I don't know when they broke up, but it could be that as well. But he don't understand means the whole point is that he didn't want to grow. He didn't want to grow with her, and she was ready to grow. So she had to grow out the slammer, you know? He was with her in dreams though. So that means that like there was somebody else. That maybe it wasn't her who in track 9 of Guilty as Sin. Maybe it was him too. Maybe he was writing mine on the inner thigh of some other girl, but only in his mind. So it wasn't really cheating, but it was still happening. And that is a self-sabotage technique. Like, people don't see that. Like, when somebody cheats, it's not because they don't love the person or because of something else. Sometimes it's just self-sabotage where they're too scared to go deeper with the person that they're with. So they rather go with somebody shallow. And then the cheating occurs, because they like it shallow. But a relationship calls for depth. It calls for growth in the roots. Here on Grounded Spirits, we say, stay rooted, fly high. You have to grow your roots deep so that you can fly high. And so a partner needs to reflect that. Gray and blue and fights and tunnels, handcuffed to the spell I was under. For just 1 hour of sunshine. So gray and blue, it kind of is reminiscent of in So Long London, where it's like her white knuckle dying grip, and she talks about like barely now am I getting the color back in my skin. It reminds me of that, like when someone's like blue is like when they're so cold that their lips are blue, and gray is that they have no color in them anymore. And then here, because of the fights in the tunnel, so she's been trying to like drill into him and go deep with him, go like making these tunnels, and he's been fighting her the entire way. And she knew she had to give up. In So Long London, she says like, how long before I self-imploded? How long were you going to let me be here, like dying for you? Let me read it. It says, just how low did you think I'd go before I'd self-implode, before I'd have to go be free? That she was ready to grow and he wasn't. And I'm saying Joe because that's what I think it is, because So Long London is clearly about Joe, but it doesn't matter. It's a guy, right? Gray and blue fights in tunnels, handcuffed to the spell I was under. So the handcuff terminology, again, being caged, feeling like you're imprisoned. To the spell I was under. Spell is magic, right? Love is magic. So it's that she felt like she was under a spell because she loved him so much. Like in Down Bad, because fuck it, I was in love, you know? For just 1 hour of sunshine. So her sun sign is Sagittarius. Sagittarius is a wildfire. It's a fire sign. So she's saying, like, I was in the trenches with him and like hiding who I was, trying to fit the mold that he wanted me to be. And I only got 1 hour of my true self, of my sunshine. Because she's sun, you know, she radiates. So she was only able to have that for an hour a day, she's saying. Years of labor, locks, and ceilings. So they were almost 6 years together. So everything had locks on. So that's why she was saying in So Long London with, like, I'm done trying to drill the safe, because he had it under lock and key. And then the ceilings, we think about it as like glass ceilings, where you don't think that there's a ceiling until you hit it. And in other relationships, like the relationships that you're meant to be in the relationship when you're with the one, quote unquote, you find a way to break that ceiling so that you can fly high, using grounded spirits terminology, or my little motto for this podcast. That I've been married for 4 years now, and I remember when we hit that ceiling and we had to find a way to break it. And funny enough, it's by digging deep roots. By digging deep roots. Like, this is, so I have, I use metaphor a lot to understand my own life, which is how I wrote Monterey. So it's a book about my life, really. And Monterey is like this fairy tale place. Well, it's like a dark fairy tale because I land in a dark place. But anyway, everything that goes on in my real life, I always think of it as a metaphor. So for us, for my husband and I, with our glass ceiling, what we had to do is grow deeper roots. And then from there, we were able to build like this like catapult kind of thing, where we had to, it seemed to everybody else that we were hitting rock bottom, but it was all part of the plan. It was an active choice to then be able, like when you catapult, you have to like push it back, right? So it looks like you're going backwards, but really you're just gaining that traction so then you can shoot up, break that glass, and then shoot off to the stars, kind of a thing. But she's saying here that she worked so hard, but she couldn't break that glass ceiling by herself, because it takes two. You can't have a relationship that's one-sided. And I think that she tried making up so many excuses for him. This is not talking about Taylor. In track 3, we see this a lot. My boy only breaks his favorite toys. That she's like, how did she say it? let me look it up. 1 second. Okay, I couldn't find the exact words, but maybe it wasn't even track 3. It could have been 2 or 5 or another one. But the point is that the relationship was one-sided. It's very clear. Oh, she tried making excuses for him. So that wasn't in track 3. That was the whole point. The excuse was in track 2 of like, I know that you have, like, I still love the show or something like that. Right here, I have it right here. You're in self-sabotage mode, throwing spikes on the road, but I've seen this episode and still love the show. There we go. So she's making up excuses for him. Or even the title of track 3, I don't know why I went through this whole like goose chase trying to find the right lyrics, but the title alone, My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys. I'm his favorite toy. He got me shiny plastic at the mall, and he broke me. But he only broke me because I'm his favorite. And so once I fix me, once I put myself back together, he's going to love me and he's going to miss me. So she's making excuses for him, but you can't do that in a relationship if it's one-sided, you know? That's what I was saying too. The excuses in the Tortured Poets apartment is that she talks about like his mental health issues. And so she thinks that like he does love me, and she talks about it in So Long London too. Like, you say that you love me, but where was the proof? I died on the altar waiting for the proof. So, I think I said that wrong, but you get what I'm trying to say, that she was making up these excuses, but she couldn't break that glass ceiling alone. Now it's going to bother me, so let me get the actual here. Here it is. You swore that you loved me, but where were the clues? I died on the altar waiting for the proof. There we go. Okay. Back to Fresh Out the Slammer. In the shade of how he was feeling, but it's going to be all right, I did my time. So, yeah, in the shade of how he was feeling, she was stepping on eggshells around him, because when he's in his self-sabotage mode, there's no getting through to him, so she just tried to let him have his space, let him be himself, but then by doing that, she was in the shade of him. She couldn't be her true self. That's why she only had her 1 hour of sunshine. You can't do it like that, right? And then it's interesting that she used the word shade, because again, Taurus moons, Taurus is an earth sign. Earth signs, the way I think about Taurus is like a grassy field with like a beautiful big tree. But if the tree, or maybe it's that like the tree didn't want to grow down, only wanted to grow up, so then there's no stability. So then that's where, in the shade of how you're feeling, that you're stubborn, but you're also like irritable, because you know what you want, but you're kind of too scared to change to go and get what you want. Interesting. But it's gonna be all right. I did my time. Like, I know what not to do now. I know that it has to be I know that it can't be one-sided now. So I did my time. So it's going to be all right. And I'm going to meet somebody new. She says this in So Long London too. I'll find someone. I'm sure of it. And sure enough, she does. Now, pretty baby, I'm running back home to you. Fresh out the slammer. I know who my first call will be too. Fresh out the slammer. Oh. Camera, flashes, welcome, bashes. I'm going to do one line at a time. It's just so hard to stop because it's so catchy, you know? So camera, flashes, welcome, bashes. Joe did not like being in the spotlight. But Taylor, being an Aquarius rising, means that she has Leo in her 7th house. Meaning that she is meant to shine. Like, Leo is the place in your life where you're meant to shine, where you want to be on display, where you want all eyes on you. And that's why I think like Travis is so perfect for her, because he loves the spotlight too. So they could love it together where they're meant to be. I haven't looked at Travis's chart, so I don't know where he's at with all of that, like where he has Leo. But I would even go as far to say that he's like a Leo sun. Like he radiates sunshine just like Taylor, you know? But with Joe, it wasn't like that. So when the cameras would flash, Joe would like hide. He couldn't handle the pressure or like the welcome bashes. He didn't want to go out to these parties. So it could be bashes like a bash, like a party, or it could be bash like getting stones thrown at you, like you're getting bashed in or whatever, you know, like. But in Taylor's career, like, there are always going to be cameras. And I think that she didn't allow herself to enjoy the spotlight because of Joe. And that's probably taking it a little too far, because who am I to say some random girl on the internet, you know, like, talking about somebody's love life, their relationship, when we never really know what goes on between two people. And that's like, now like taking it on a tangent, your relationship that you have with every single person in your life, whether they're your partner or an acquaintance, the two of you have that special bond that nobody else could ever understand what that bond is like. And that even goes like with like dogs. Like the relationship that I have with my 2 dogs, is different between each of them. Their names are Billy and Mandy. So my relationship with Billy is completely different than my relationship with Mandy. And their relationship with my husband is completely different than my relationship with them or my relationship with him, you know? So we each have our own little bond. A friend of mine told me that it's cool how like souls and spirit work, because soul is your most true authentic self of who you are at the core. It's your own special divine light. It's your own like little unique part of God inside of you. Whereas spirit is like the aura that you have around you, the energy, the field that you have around you. And when you meet someone and have a conversation, you guys are blending your spirits together. And you're creating your own little world. I keep coming back to these other songs, but it's just because they're so perfect. So here we go. In So Long London, she says, I saw my mind fairy lights through the mist. So she was the lights and Joe was the mist. We learned last episode that Joe's spirit is Pisces. So he's a Pisces sun. So he's water, Taylor's fire. She has a Sagittarius. Water and fire don't go together. And that's why she says it in, I think it's Down Bad, maybe. Or maybe it's in, here it is, I found it. Okay. Track 3, my boy only breaks his favorite toys. She says, call the rain to end our days of wild. So the wild is that Sagittarius wildfire. And the rain is that Pisces. So the rain washed out the flame that they had with each other, but also he was washing out Taylor. And then I already read this, but I'm going to read it again because it's that good. Just how low did you think I'd go before I'd self-implode, before I'd have to go be free? How low did you think I would go before, like, you almost took out my whole light, and I let you because I loved you. She loved him because her Cancer's water, you know? So it's like water with water. She thought that it was a match, but it's not. Because his water was literally raining out. It's like at a campfire when you want to put out the fire, you put water on it. It's the same thing that happened in her relationship. But I think it could happen in anybody's relationship. Okay, so going back to it. Camera flashes, welcome bashes, get the matches, toss the ashes. Like, how beautiful is that? To rhyme like that. I just think it's so, so beautiful. So get the matches, toss the ashes off the ledge. So I think it's that, I don't really understand this line, to be honest, but here I'm going to give you my best guess. So get the matches, I think it's the whole thing that she feels that she's burning out, like her fire is getting snuffed out, and so she's like, get the matches because I need them to survive. Toss the ashes off the ledge. But it could also be like a rising phoenix thing, because what I have here is that the first verse is her feeling caged, and then the second verse is like why she stayed, but it's also like a love letter to herself. So maybe she's like telling herself, like, get the matches, like, let's light this bitch up, but like also like in a phoenix kind of way, like toss the ashes, like it's all done, the relationship's done, so let's get rid of the ashes, let's get rid of any proof. As I said in my letters, now that I know better, I will never lose my baby again. So I will never lose myself again in this relationship. So that's why, yeah. So get the matches, toss the ashes. She needs the matches because she lost herself. My friends tried, but I wouldn't hear it. Watched me daily disappearing. Oh my gosh. I'm going to keep just saying the same thing because it's like, it's just what it says. That. So she has this big, beautiful flame. He's constantly raining down on this flame and it hurts. It's like, oh my gosh, it's just like an elemental where when she's like on the train or something and water bumps into her, like half of her disappears, and then they have to eat that like those coals, And then that's how, like, this is for the mom. The mom, she eats the coals and then, like, the fire comes back. But, like, half her head is, like, missing for a while until she eats the coals. So I feel like that's kind of like how Taylor's saying it here, that get the matches because I lost myself. Half of me was gone because of the water that was pouring down on me. So I needed those matches, just like how in Elemental the mom needed those coals to eat to bring it back up because she was disappearing. For just one glimpse of his smile. When something is rationed, you treasure it more. It's the distance makes the heart grow fonder type thing. Like when you don't have something at your disposal, when you get it, it's like the best thing ever. Think about, like, I don't agree with diets, but let's say that you were on a diet and you just love chocolate cake. So then the one day that you get to eat chocolate cake, like, it's so delicious. It's like a guilty pleasure kind of a thing that you would do whatever it takes to be able to get that chocolate cake again. So that's what she's saying here. For just one glimpse of his smile, I was willing to put myself out, to imprison myself, my true self, for just one glimpse of his smile, because that's how little I saw it, that it just brightened up my whole world to see it. All those nights you kept me going swirled into all of my poems. Now we're at the starting line. I did my time. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Now, pretty baby, I'm running to the house where you still wait up and that porch light gleams. So I put Peter ? Because in that song Peter, which is all the way to the end, so it's going to be a few episodes before we get there, but she has a line that says, like, now the woman in the light is, like, in the window, the woman in the window is now turning out the light. And so here she's saying she's running up to that porch where the light is still on. So it's like this is like running back to her soul. In my book Monterey, the one, it's coming out soon. It's called, so the first book is called Monterey Patches Through Water, and the second book is called Monterey the Eternal Flame. And in the second book, I talk about how we each have a house inside. So it's like our inner house that represents our soul. And when at the beginning of the book, when we go through the house, it's old and decrepit and messy, dirty, spiderwebby, dark. Like, it's like a haunted house, like creepy old house, like falling apart. And then I'm not ruining anything by saying, but by the end, well, actually I could say it in real life. So every single day I would wake up and smoke weed, because weed, and then, oh my gosh, so I say weed, but I always felt like that was like disrespectful to weed, because like, why would I call this beautiful thing that literally saved my life a weed? That's something that we want to get rid of, or something that's ugly. And yeah, so I asked her, and she said, at first I thought she was saying like mota, and I was like, okay, I guess we can go with it, but she was really saying monksa, or like monksa, like Monxa. So I'm gonna start calling her that. So every time that I say, like I smoke monksa, I mean weed. But anyway, the whole thing is that, so every single day I would do it, and she would take me on these like different adventures within my own self, to like get to know myself better, and to like literally like quote unquote clean up my house. And so one day I woke up, did my like little routine when I would smoke, and there was nothing left to clean. Like, I felt like, okay, my house is clean now. There's nothing left here. And what's so beautiful about like the inner and outer world is, once I came to that realization, the house that this all occurred in, like the actual physical house that this all occurred in, like, it just felt like it was time to part ways. And then not even a month later, we sold the house. So like everything happens for a reason. And I think that's the same thing that's going on here with Taylor that she's saying, like, she's running to the house where there's still that light. That's where her soul is. It's that there's that light in there. And in my house in Monterey, there was the light. Oh my gosh, I was gonna say there was no light. Like when you walk, so you'll read it in the book if you pick it up when it comes out. It'll probably come out in 2025 though. But when you walk into the house, it's like super dark, but then you had to walk up all the way up to the attic, and in the attic there was this tiny little candle, and that was all that was left of my true self. And that's like how like my whole spiritual journey started. And if you want to hear about that, it's here on Grounded Spirits, but go all the way up to like episode 1. Cause that's why I started this, was because that's when I started like learning about myself and starting to allow that little candle to become like full on indoor electricity, where we have so much light in that house, in my internal house now. But I think that's what she's talking about here. And so then when I put Peter ? I think it's more of, that's what she's saying, like in the song Peter, that the woman at the window is turning off the light. Like, you can't come into this house anymore because it's mine, and I'm not going to share it with people who aren't worthy, or not necessarily aren't worthy, because I don't think that Taylor thinks like that, but people who can't appreciate her for who she is, who can appreciate her fire. In My Boy Breaks His Favorite Toys, she has the line that he saw the danger of my heat, or something like that. There was danger in the heat of my touch. He saw forever, so he smashed it up. So she's like, I'm done wasting my time with people like that. You either accept me for me, like I'm done putting myself in a mold. I am a wildfire, and I deserve to be my true authentic self and be a wildfire. So watch me burn, watch me turn into this phoenix. So that's why now, pretty baby, I'm running to the house where you still wait up and that porch light gleams. The one who says I'm the girl of his American dreams. So this is like the So High School. So I think she is talking about Travis here. And no matter what I've done, it wouldn't matter anyway. Ain't no way I'm gonna screw up now that I know what's at stake. I didn't understand this for the longest time, and I actually have 2 question marks here. But now I get it. That she's never going to let somebody, like, what's at stake is her soul. That's what's at stake. So she's never going to screw it up. She's never going to be with somebody again who makes her dim her light. She's done with that. Okay, I have to reread this because it's not going to make sense to just say here. So I'm going to start from the beginning. Now, pretty baby, I'm running to the house where you still wait up and that porch light gleams, to the one who says I'm the girl of his American dreams. And no matter what I've done, it wouldn't matter anyway. Ain't no way I'm gonna screw up now that I know what's at stake here. At the park where we used to sit on children's swings, wearing imaginary rings. But I'm gonna be alright, I did my time. So wearing imaginary rings, this comes up in Paper Rings in the Lover album, but also in track 2 where she says, you took my ring off my middle finger and put it on the one where people put wedding rings on. It's like she really thought that he was going to be the one, but now she knows that it's not worth it. So she did her time, but it's imaginary. So like, yeah, she has Pisces in her first house. Yes, she loves the imaginary. She loves going into her fantasy lands, but she's done with it. She's leaving that behind because now she did her time. So she's fresh out the slammer. All right, moving on to track 8. Sorry, before we move on to track 8, I wanted to say this last part because I just re-listened to it really fast, because I didn't really understand this last part. And like I said, the imaginary rings remind me of like paper rings and stuff, but no, the whole time, the pretty baby that she's been talking about is herself, right? So at the park where we used to sit on children's swings wearing imaginary rings, she's talking about herself. And I feel like a lot of girls do this. Like, I know for facts I did. Like, at the park, you would get like a blade of grass and you'd put it on your middle finger and you'd like put your hand out to see, oh, how will I look like with a wedding ring on? And yeah, like as a kid I would do that. But even like before I met my husband, like when I was already in my 20s, like I would still do it, or I would like just to see what it would look like to have a ring there. And so I think that's just like a girl thing to do, but she's talking about herself here, so I just wanted to make that clear. At the park where we used to sit on children's swings, so like her and herself were sitting on the children's swings wearing imaginary rings. And that saying that this is something that I've always wanted, and now that I'm fresh out the slammer, I'm going to find the person who is actually going to put a real ring on this finger so I don't have to wear imaginary rings anymore, because it's going to be all right. I did my time. And that's how the song ends. Sheesh, I just got goosebumps again. All right, we're just going to go straight into Florida, featuring Florence and the Machine. So this one, it reminded me so much of No Body, No Crime with Haim in a different album, and from Evermore. And it kind of has like that kind of feel to it. And it also kind of seems like this is the sequel to it, because in that one, like she talks about like needing to like have this getaway. Now I'm thinking like getaway car, but that's completely different. But it has like that kind of vibe, and like with crimes. And then this is also a sequel to Fortnite, because in Fortnite she talks about a cheating husband. Here she's Florence, in Florence's verse she says, and your cheating husband disappeared and no one's asking questions here. So like that's like the no body, no crime kind of thing. And then at the end of Fortnite, they say with Post Malone's part, move out to Florida, get a car, do what you gotta do, but it's not gonna start up until you touch me or until I touch you. So that's what I think about Florida. So now let's actually go through it. Actually, before we go through it, I just wanted to point out some of the words here. We have heat, cheat, crazy, charges, barricaded. So again, with that caged feeling. We have ghosts, haunted, crimes, cheating husband, despicable, unforgivable, fuck me up, Florida, it's one hell of a drug, you know, like these kinds of, a shitstorm back in Texas, arrested. So it's like these, they're like very dark words. I was trying to find a right word, but that's the one that came out, so we're going to stick to it. All right, let's actually go through it now. You can beat the heat if you beat the charges too. They said I was a cheat. I guess it must be true. So this kind of reminds me of But Daddy, I Love Him. Like, they're going to say what they're going to say. I'll let them say it. It doesn't matter. So if you want to call me a cheat, then call me a cheat. Don't care. But you can beat the heat. A lot of people say, oh, like beat the heat, like get AC kind of thing. But here she's talking about like a crime. So that's like why I was like bringing it back to No Body, No Crime. And my friends all smell like weed or little babies. So I think this is like funny in like between your 20s and 30s. All your friends either smell like weed or little babies. I feel like there's like no in between with that. Like either people are single and just like doing their own thing, or they're married with no kids, still doing their own thing, or they're with kids. And so I think that's just like pretty universal at this age, where all of our friends either smell like weed or little babies. And the city reeks. I love that imagery of reeks, because we think about like the smell of weed or little babies, and then the city reeks of driving myself crazy. So I love that like play on words. Little did you know your home's really only a town you're just a guest in. In London Boy, and I forgot to talk about this when we were talking, I think it was For So Long London. I was like, oh, let me compare it with London Boy to see like what was there. The only thing that I found in common was the heath. And I'm not sure what that means now, because when I looked it up, it was like, oh, it's like a grassland or something. But the way that she talks about it in London Boy, it's not that. So I don't really know what it means, but he left. She was trying to bring him to it in London Boy, and then in So Long London, he left her there at the heath. So maybe it's a place. I don't know. But in London Boy, that was the whole point. In London Boy, she says that people say that home is where the heart is, but I love the English. So she's saying, oh, but then that's in the second time that she says it. The first time she says it, but that's not where mine is. So home is where the heart is, but that's not where mine is. I love a London Boy, and keeps going on. So here she's saying your home is really only a town you're just a guest in. So like, don't put your heart in your home because you just need to be a guest. You have to be completely detached. That you don't own the town. And I think that's what she had to learn with like London too. And I think that's why she did the whole like the black dog, where now it like business is booming there, where he can't even enjoy his favorite bar anymore. So it's like anybody can take anything away from you in the 3D, in the physical world. So you can't own anything really when it comes to your town. So your home, you can't, so I think she's trying to say like, you can't find stability in the outside world. Stability comes from the inside. Okay. So you work your life away just to pay for a timeshare down in Destin. And it's interesting that she used that town, because it's just a Y is missing for destiny, right? So you work your life away. It's like that sacrifice. Well, I'm going to sacrifice so then I can have something nice. But here she's saying like, it's not worth it. It's not worth to work your life away just to have this one piece of enjoyment. You should be enjoying it the whole time. And it's like, you're not going to get the satisfaction from the real world. It all has to come from the inside. Florida, it's one hell of a drug. Florida, can I use you up? And the hurricane with my name, when it came, I got drunk and I dared it to wash me away. So, Florence she sings this part, and I guess there was a Hurricane Florence not that long ago, so that's what they're referencing there. I got drunk and dared it to wash me away. So that's what water does. It washes away your sins. It makes you clean. Like, think about a shower. Like, all the good ideas come in a shower. You feel refreshed after a shower. You feel better after a shower. And so she's saying with this hurricane, with the water and the air, and I don't know who wrote this exactly. I don't know if it was Florence or Taylor. But Taylor on her chart, and I don't know if Florence chart, I never looked her up, but Taylor has she has a lot of water and air placement. So it's kind of like saying like her own hurricane is like washing herself away, is like washing out all of the negative. And that's why it has to be in Florida, where Florida has these hurricanes, where Florida has this moisture. Florida has the heat, the humidity, right? The heat with the water. So like we get the humidity because there's extra moisture in the air. So that's why she's like, can I use you up? Like, you're a hell of a drug, because like you're like, basically she's saying like Florida's her in a way, that it's a perfect mixture of fire, of all four elements: fire, water, earth. What am I missing? The other one that I'm missing. Did I say air already? I don't know. Okay. Barricaded in the bathroom with a bottle of wine. Well, me and my ghost, we had a hell of a time. And remember, she talks about I think this is in How Does It End, but that the ghosts are still there and they're embarrassed for her, watching her, like, watching her relationship die. So here she's saying, like, I'm gonna cage myself into the bathroom. I know Florence sings this part, but I'm gonna keep talking about it as if it's Taylor. Barricaded in the bathroom with a bottle of wine. And that's why Taylor, in Fortnite, she talks about being a functioning alcoholic until nobody noticed her new aesthetic. So, like, that alcoholism. And that's why, like, Taylor's a water sign as far as her moon sign goes. And so that's why a lot of people drink, because, like, you cope with whatever your moon sign is. So for me, being a Sagittarius moon, I had, like the Moksha, she had to help me. Like, it had to be with that fire. I needed to, like, actually physically light up. And then with my Aquarius rising, I needed that air to come out. But with Taylor, like, her Aquarius rising is the wind, like the hurricane wind, and then her Cancer moon is that water. So it's like, again, with that hurricane. And here, that's why it's the bottle of wine. Barricaded myself in the bathroom with me and my ghost. We had a hell of a time. Yes, I'm haunted, but I'm feeling just fine. All of my girls got their lace and their crime. So again, going back to Nobody, No Crime, my girls being Hayam, the three of them. And your cheating husband disappeared. Well, no one asked any questions here. So maybe this, like I said, it's like a sequel to Fortnite, where the cheating husband, I want to kill him. And so he disappeared. No one's going to ask any questions here. So I did my best to lay to rest all of the bodies that have ever been on my body. And in my mind, they sink into the swamp. Is that a bad thing to sing in a song? So again, like, getting rid of everything, letting the water purify and cleanse the body. Because again, according to my research, the moon sign represents the body. So Taylor's body is very watery, is what is going on here. So that's like why it needs like this purification in this way. Little did you know, your home's really only a town, you'll get arrested. And that's like a wild thing to think about, that you're more likely, that's like how they say it too, like for accidents, but you're more likely to get involved with police in your own town, because that's where you spend most of your time. So like statistics say that this is true, right? Your home is really only the town that you're going to get arrested, if you get arrested, right? So you pack your life away just to wait out the shitstorm back in Texas. Florida is one hell of a drug. Florida, can I use you up? I need to forget, so take me to Florida. I've got some regrets. I'll bury them in Florida. Tell me I'm despicable. Say it's unforgivable. At least the dolls are beautiful. Fuck me up, Florida. I need to forget, so take me to Florida. I've got some regrets. I'll bury them in Florida. Tell me I'm despicable. Say it's unforgivable. What a crush, what a rush. Fuck me up, Florida. So I think what she's talking about here is that, like, the waiting out the shitstorm back in Texas, like, Texas is the place where she has all of the rules. So going back to her chart, this is her 12th house in Capricorn. All the rules are back in Texas, and it's a shitstorm over there because she has her Uranus, Mercury, what else was there? Neptune and Saturn. Saturn is like the police in this scenario, is the structure, the rules, the rule maker, the authority. And the other ones, they're all just kind of there creating a shitstorm because Neptune, like, we already went through all of them. I'm not going to go through all of them again. If you didn't hear it, I said it in the last episode. But Florida is the place where she has her freedom. Florida is the place where she can be her watery self. Florida is the place where, so it's not even about her Aquarius rising. It's about her fifth house of expression, because it's ruled by Gemini, but her Cancer moon is there. So again, like I said, the moon represents the body. So yeah, so it's all in Florida. So this is where she feels free, where she feels alive. It's one hell of a drug. Love left me like this, and I don't want to exist, so take me to Florida. Little did you know your home's really only a town you're just a guest in. Oh, I skipped a page. I was like, oh, no. Okay, so here's the last little bit here. So you work your life away just to pay for a timeshare down in Destin. Little did you know your home's really only a town you'll get arrested. So you pack your life away just to wait out the shitstorm back in Texas. So this could be the shitstorm back in Texas, could be like the shitstorm that came out of Love Lost. Because her Neptune is like the fantasy one. And her Mercury is how she says it, the city reeks of driving myself crazy. Her Mercury, especially having a Capricorn Mercury, it's that your mind, you're overthinking everything, that you're overthinking the overthinking. And so she's driving herself crazy. She needs to get out of town, go to Florida, and feel free for once, and let the Gemini of her 5th house paired with the Cancer moon that's there wash over her and cleanse her and allow her to feel free. And yeah, that's what's going on here. Let's move on to track 9, Guilty as Sin. Drowning in blue Nile, he sent me downtown lights. And I love how she says this, because the song is actually Downtown Lights by the Blue Nile. Like the Blue Nile is the band. But here she's saying, like, it could be like drowning in like their music, but it could also be like drowning in the Blue Nile, like the actual like Nile in Egypt. And like the blue part could go again with that we learned in track 7, Fresh Out the Slammer, gray and blue, and fights in tunnels, that it's like this, the blue of like death, of like being so cold, because like, yeah, she's just so cold, like, because she doesn't have her son anymore. She's been restricting herself down to 1 hour of sunshine, like that song says. So I love like that. I love the double entendre. But I actually looked up this song and I listened to it, and honestly I didn't really like it. And I didn't really get it either. But I just put it into ChatGPT. I just said, what is the song Downtown Lights by Blue Nile about? And here's what it says. Downtown Lights by the Blue Nile is a song that evokes a sense of yearning and longing with introspective lyrics and atmospheric music. While interpretations may vary, many listeners perceive the song as capturing feelings of loneliness, isolation, and a desire for connection. The lyrics paint vivid imagery of urban landscapes and city lights, suggesting a search for meaning and emotional fulfillment amidst the hustle and bustle of city life. The haunting melody and emotive vocals contribute to the song's melancholic tone, inviting listeners to reflect on their own experiences of longing and introspection. Overall, Downtown Lights is often seen as a poignant meditation on the human condition and the complexities of modern existence. And so I think that that little synopsis captures Guilty as Sin perfectly. That's why it makes so much sense why she says it at the beginning of the song and she ends the song in the same way. He sent me downtown lights. That's why it hits her so hard, because this song is about the yearning and the longing for emotional fulfillment. And here she's been starved of this emotional fulfillment. She's been eating breadcrumbs when she deserves a buffet. I don't know why it keeps coming back to like my own love life, but like I said, everything is a metaphor in my life. And so my husband, he, like, ever since we met, metaphorically has put out this huge buffet think about it like in Be My Guest in Beauty and the Beast, where they have so much food and everything. And he has set this up for me since the moment I met him. He's like, look at this beautiful buffet, like, please eat. Anything that you want is yours. And if there's something here that if there's something that you want that is not here, like, I will make it for you. And it's funny because in real life he is a chef, so that's cool. But this is all metaphorically, right? And this whole time, like I said, we've been married for 4 years, been dating for 6, or been together for 6. And I would only eat, like, the breadcrumbs. I would only eat the little, like, a cracker, and say, okay, I'm full now, I can't eat anymore. And I think it just came, like, from trauma. Like, it's like he was expecting me to drink oceans when I didn't have that capacity. I could only drink sips through a straw. But I think it's like the opposite for Taylor here. And by the way, I've gotten better at it. Now I can actually, like, enjoy his energy better. But here for Taylor, it's the opposite. Like, she is so hungry. She wants somebody to create a feast for her, metaphorically. But all she's gotten is breadcrumbs. And so when this guy sends her this song about emotional fulfillment, or lack thereof, like, it just makes her spiral. Like, or do you, like, she's basically saying, like, what, like, you understand what I'm going through? You sent me this song because you understand me? I feel seen. And she talks about that in the Tortured Poets department, how important it is for her to feel seen. In the Tortured Poets department, it's more of a negative way, because it's talking about, like, I'll kill myself if I leave, but I said that too, so I feel seen. But here, that's why it's so palpable, because she feels seen. Okay, moving on. I hadn't heard it in a while. My boredom's bone deep. And remember, in the first episode of this, I think, of these special editions, we talked about bones as Dr. Estes. And I think I said her name wrong there, so let me clarify. It's Clarissa Piccola Estes. And I probably said it wrong still. But the book is called Women Who Run with Wolves, or something along those lines. And she talks about bones as being the soul of the self. And so here, my boredom's bone deep, that I'm so bored that it goes down to my soul. I'm bored, and it's not just like a normal bored, it's a boredom of being imprisoned. That it, just like if you were to think about being in jail, you just have a bed and a room. What are you going to do all day? You know, like, you're just so bored. And so here it's bone deep. It goes down to her soul. Like, her soul is the one that is in prison. And that's why in track 7, Fresh Out the Slammer, is that it's the first time that her soul is finally able to come alive, to come back out. This cage, oh, so here we go. See, this cage was once just fine. Am I allowed to cry? So when you first get into a relationship, you love the cage, because something that you wanted to feel secure inside of the cage. So think about it like a bird cage. A bird, I can't remember. Like, growing up, I had a bird who we would open the cage, and maybe just because I was like a little kid and I was probably like hurting him when I touched him too much. You know how, like, kids are with, like, pets and stuff. But anyway, when I would open the cage door for him to fly around the house, he would never want to leave. And I'm like, why not? And now I'm thinking back, I'm like, he probably just felt safer in the cage than being out, probably getting chased around by me. I probably chased him, to be honest. So I think that's what Taylor's saying here. This cage was once just fine. Am I allowed to cry? So before, she felt safer in the cage, so she had no desire to leave. But then it turned into a prison where now that she wants to get out, she couldn't, because she just loved him so much. It wasn't what she was expecting being in this cage with him. So now her boredoms went down to her soul. So she's asking, like, am I allowed to cry? Like, like, it's kind of like the feeling of guilt. Like, you love somebody so much, but it's not enough. And you feel like you should be grateful that you have somebody who loves you, somebody who is there being in a relationship, but it's not enough. And now you have to like own that it's not enough. And like, who do you blame when something's not enough? Do you blame yourself? Do you blame them for not being enough? Do you blame yourself for being too much? So it's like you need to give yourself that permission. And here she's asking, am I allowed to cry? I dream of cracking locks, throwing my life to the wolves or the ocean rocks. So here she is trying to break out of this prison. And she dreams about it. And throughout the whole album, I haven't really been spotlighting it, I guess is the way to say it. But she talks about dreaming a lot. And I think this goes back to her Neptune and Mercury being so close together that when she's dreaming, that's her Neptune, and then communicating through it is her Mercury. And they're both in the 12th house, so it's dark. And that's why all of this dark imagery of dying and killing and cracking. So I dream of cracking locks, throwing my life to the wolves. Oh my gosh, and then wolves. Remember we were just talking about it with Dr. Esses's work? So like that women, in Dr. Esses's work, she talks about like women being like wolves. And here she's talking about like throwing my life to the wolves, like throwing my life back to myself in a way. Or the ocean rocks. So the ocean again with her Cancer. The rocks could be her Saturn. Maybe I'm just like reading it too deep into it now, but the point is that she's trying to break out of this prison that she's in. Crashing into him tonight, he's a paradox. I'm seeing visions. Am I bad or mad or wise? What if he's written mine on my upper thigh, only in my mind? One slip and falling back into the hedge maze. Oh, what a way to die. So the hedge maze, you could think of it like Pan's Labyrinth, where actually Pan's Labyrinth is a really good one. When I was talking about like the buffet where they say you can't eat a single thing, maybe that's like how she feels. Like she's so hungry, and there's this feast, but she's not allowed to eat it. That's an interesting way to think about it. But anyway, in Pan's Labyrinth, there's like this maze, and that's like what she's talking about here. Back into the hedge maze. So it seems like she's trying to like walk up, like to break that glass ceiling of herself, not even with the partner anymore. And this is just just with herself. And then one slip and she falls back into the hedge maze. So you can just like see that imagery of falling back, like an Alice in Wonderland type of thing where you don't know what's up or what's down. You just feel like dying. Oh, what a way to die. I keep recalling things we never did. Messy top lip kiss. How I long for our trysts. And I looked it up. Trysts just mean secret dates. Without ever touching his skin, how can I be guilty as sin? So she's saying like my body might be trapped. So that's with that whole ocean rocks thing. My heart might be trapped. I haven't even looked at where her Venus is. Oh my gosh, what kind of an astrologer am I? Okay, so her Venus, interestingly, is exactly on top of her rising sign. They're both at 1 degree Aquarius. So that means that she feels weird. Like Aquarius is like, they're like kind of weird. So like it's in a different kind of way. So that actually makes a lot of sense, like with like songs like Illicit Affairs, the way that she writes songs like that, like I feel, and like also like in manuscript with like the professor and the girl, like I feel like something happened, but also like it couldn't have in this life of Taylor's, right? So maybe it's just like her imagination. Who knows? But that's very, those songs are very Aquarius, a Venus Aquarius. They want like the non-normal when it comes to relationships. Not necessarily when it comes to relationships, the way that they give love. Or the way that they receive love. Interesting. I'm going to do some research on that. Oh my gosh. So obviously, this makes so much sense that having Venus in the first house means that your sense of self is dependent on your relationships. And yes, it's like romantic relationships, but it's relationships with anybody. And interesting. Maybe that's why she loves her cat so much. It's like I said, it's like the giving and receiving of love and how it reflects back to your own sense of self, that you need to have these kinds of relationships. And so here in this relationship where she's being deprived emotionally, it's just really hard for her. So that's why so the only thing that she's free to do is have this affair in her mind. And again, it's that Aquarius self. It's that Aquariusness of the non-conforming, like non-societal, appropriate relationships, non-conventional relationships. There we go. Okay, moving on. I keep these longings locked in lowercase inside a vault. So again, the locking, the vault, it's the cage within, that she's keeping this all hidden. She's keeping this shut off. So again, it's her soul that is being put in prison. Somebody said that in lowercase inside a vault could also mean that the Reputation, Taylor's version, is going to be coming out soon, because Reputation's the only album with the lowercase r, or the lowercase, all lowercase, and the vault, all her tracks are from the vault, so things like that. But I think it could also be taken at face value here that that she has to, that she wants to be able to scream this desire, this emotional desire, but she has to keep it lowercase. She has to keep it quiet. And I said this in one of the first episodes about her juxtaposition between screaming and quiet throughout the entire album. So here it is once again in lowercase. It's like the quietness inside of her vault, because like she said with Joe, that she's done trying to drill the safe, that like she's like, oh, I can have my vault too. If he's gonna do it, I'm gonna do it too, kind of thing. I keep these longings locked. I'm start over. I keep these longings locked in lowercase inside a vault. Someone told me there's no such thing as bad thoughts, only your actions talk. And I think that could be true, because your mind is the one that has the thoughts, but it's up to your body to actually follow through with them. So I say that's true. These fatal fantasies giving way to labored breath, taking all of me. We've already done it in my head. So it's getting very sexual here. It reminds me of Dress with where she's like breathing, like panting. If it's make-believe, why does it feel like a vow we'll both uphold somehow? That even in fantasy, you're still sharing energy with that person. So a vow is that, it's like what I was saying before, like you've created your own little world. Even in a fantasy, You created your own little world with this person. Because it's created in real life. The guy sent her downtown lights, right? So they obviously talk. But now she's taking that relationship. So that's interesting. Back to my relationship with like my dogs and stuff, that I was saying that the way that I have a relationship with Billy is different than how my husband has a relationship with Billy. Billy's our dog. I didn't even consider it the other way. Billy has a different relationship with me than how Billy has a different relationship with my husband. So same thing goes here. She has a relationship with this guy. Let's just call him Nick just to say somebody's name. So with Nick, I just made up because I don't know. Okay. So Nick sent her downtown light. So she knows Nick. She talks to Nick. They're friends. And so they have this relationship without it being like romantic. It could be platonic, right? But you create your own little world with every single person that you meet. And now here she's saying she's taking it to the next level. These fatal, die, like all of these kind of really dark words, these fatal fantasies giving way to labored breath, taking all of me. We've already done it in my head. If it's make-believe, why does it feel like a vow will both uphold somehow? And it's because you are sharing energy with that person. So whether they know about it or not, I love this quote I saw on Tumblr like 10 years ago that has somehow stuck in my head, that says, if I love you, what business is it of yours? Like, let me have my fantasy. Let me love you. What business is it of yours? You're just going to be receiving energy. You can decide to take it or not. But I think that's what she's getting at here, that it's that strong, it's that serious in her mind that she feels like he could actually feel her energy from miles away. What if he's written mine on my upper thigh, only in my mind? And it's wild. Like Taylor fans, somebody, like I saw this on Instagram the other day, somebody got their guy to write mine in his handwriting, and she went to go get it tattooed in his handwriting to write mine on her upper thigh. When slipping, falling back into the hedge maze, oh, what a way to die. My bed sheets are ablaze. Again with that fire imagery. I've screamed his name. So remember before she was saying lowercase inside of a vault with the quietness. Now here we are screaming his name, building up like waves crashing over my grave. So remember before it was, should I throw my life to the wolves or to the ocean rocks? And now the waves are crashing over her grave. Like the grave part too, like that if, like, how should I say this? Like, her relationship is dead at this point. Even though it's fantasy, that's why it's guilty as sin with a question mark. Because the fact of even going here means that the relationship is dead in this way. Remember before I talked about it, like when it was switched, when saying Joe, I don't know who, but saying Joe, that it was in Fresh Out the Slammer, that he has this girl in his dreams or whatever. There was because he didn't want to go deep. Here, she wants to go so deep that the fact that she's willing to go deep with someone else shows her that her relationship is dead. And that's why here we have the waves crashing over my grave. Remember when we looked at her chart, it said that her her Pluto is in Scorpio. So that transformation, it's a watery transformation. So these waves are crashing over the grave. Without ever touching his skin, how can I be guilty of sin? What if I roll the stone away? They're gonna crucify me anyway. What if the way you hold me is actually what's holy? So this is reminiscent of, in the Bible, Jesus says, like, the first, throw a stone if you haven't sinned, or something along those lines. So she's saying, like, if I roll the stone away, it doesn't matter. it doesn't matter if I do that, because they're going to crucify me anyway. I've already done it in my head. I'm already guilty. But what if the way you hold me is actually what's holy? What if everything, like, she's like, I already said, this relationship is dead. So what if you're the one I'm actually supposed to be with? Like, should I go for it? Because it's what's holy. If long-suffering propriety is just social norms. If long-suffering social norms is what they want from me, they don't know how you've haunted me so stunningly. I choose you and me religiously. Oh my gosh, I died for this part. So, I choose you and me religiously. It reminds me of False God from, is that Reputation? Maybe? But you and me religiously, like, that just, like, sheesh. But the haunted, remember we were talking about the ghost, or you could even say it from haunted of Speak Now. You know, it's a little different, but just like this, the hauntedness, the ghost, all of these kinds of words. So if long-suffering propriety is what they want from me, they don't know how you've haunted me so stunningly. Like, I've tried to stay away from you. I've tried to stick on the straight and narrow, but I am starving here from emotional starvation, that I choose you and me religiously. So religiously in this way, it could be with the whole holy thing, with false God, all of those kinds of things, but it could also be religiously the way that it's, the way that it means doing it over and over and over again. Like, you're supposed to go to church every Sunday religiously, right? Like, every single day you're doing this. So I choose you and me religiously, even though I know it's not what it's expected of me or what they want from me. I want to do this because this is for me. This is what my soul needs. So I'm going to do it. And how she says it in But Daddy, I Love Him. Like, well, fuck him. It's over, right? And then she repeats the chorus, and then she says, he sent me downtown lights. I hadn't heard it in a while. Am I allowed to cry? So yeah, this song is just a chef's kiss. This is also one of my favorites. Yeah. Just off the top of my head, I would say, in no particular order, Fresh Out the Slammer, Guilty as Sin, I Hate It Here, and what's that song called? The Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus or something like that. That one. I love that song. So I think those are my top 4. So yeah. Alrighty then. So we are going to end it here. We did our 3 tracks. I hope that you understood it better. I hope that you connected better. I hope that you're able to categorize better with your emotions, because I think that it's important to be able to do both, to connect with our emotions and categorize them. And I think that Taylor does a beautiful job, a genius job of doing both. So I hope that you learned something. If you did, please give this podcast a 5-star review. And if you want to come back for the rest of it, I'm going to do the entire album as quickly as I can. And yeah, we will go from there. And then these are just special editions episodes, but our normal ones come out every single Wednesday. Right now we're looking at the Emerald Tablets. And if you don't know what the Emerald Tablets are, they are these tablets that were found all over the world. Actually, some were found at the pyramid, the Aztec pyramids, the Mayan pyramids, and actually anywhere there are pyramids, and the Egyptian pyramids. And according to the tablets, it says that the reason why the pyramids exist is because they were like the doors to like the Middle Earth. And so it goes on this like crazy adventure. And whether you believe in all of that or not, I think just reading it and understanding how to how to gain freedom through knowledge is incredible. And yeah, so that's what we do here. We read books and get high and talk about staying rooted and flying high in a metaphorical sense of being able to go deep with people, build strong roots, and help each other grow and reach new heights. We always want to reach beyond the stars and make our wildest dreams come true. So I hope you like this episode, and I will see you on Wednesday for our normal Emerald Tablets one, and maybe tomorrow I'll be able to do another one of the Taylor episodes. So yeah, that's all I have for you tonight. I hope that you have a great night. See you next time. Bye, everybody.